Have you ever wondered how a single day can change the destiny of a nation? How one battle can redraw the map of an entire continent? Today, we're traveling back to 1859, to a small town in northern Italy called Magenta. It might sound familiar, and not just because of the color. This is the story of the battle that forged modern Italy, a clash of empires that left an indelible mark on history. It's June 4th, 1859. Imagine the scene. A blistering sun beats down on the fields of Lombardy. Thousands of French soldiers, their uniforms a vibrant spectacle of blue, red, and white, march forward. Across from them, the disciplined white-coated ranks of the Austrian army stand ready. The air is thick with anticipation. The fate of Italy, and the pride of two great empires, France and Austria, hangs in the balance. What's about to unfold is the Battle of Magenta, a pivotal moment in the Second Italian War of Independence. To understand why this battle was so important, we need to rewind a bit. In the mid-19th century, Italy was more of an idea than a country. It was a patchwork of kingdoms, duchies, and papal states. A large and wealthy part of the north, the regions of Lombardy and Venetia, was firmly under the control of the Austrian Empire. For many Italians, this was a source of deep resentment. They dreamed of a united, independent Italy, a concept they called the Risorgimento, or resurgence. The engine of this dream was the Kingdom of Sardinia-Piedmont, led by the astute and determined Prime Minister Camillo di Cavour. Was a master strategist, but he knew his small kingdom couldn't take on the mighty Austrian Empire alone. He needed a powerful ally. So, he turned his sights to France and its ambitious emperor, Napoleon III. Napoleon III, nephew of the great Napoleon Bonaparte, wanted to restore French prestige in Europe, and saw an opportunity in Italy. Cavour made him an offer he couldn't refuse: help Sardinia-Piedmont drive Austria out of Italy, and in return, France would receive the territories of Nice and Savoy. It was a high-stakes gamble, trading away ancestral lands for the promise of a unified Italy. But it was a deal that would set the stage for war. With the alliance sealed, the Franco-Piedmontese army, a formidable force, began its march. They crossed the Alps in a move that echoed Napoleon I's famous campaigns, catching the Austrians by surprise. The Austrian commander, Field Marshal Ferenc Gyulay, was indecisive. He had a larger army, but his intelligence was poor, and his forces were spread out. He expected the main attack to come from the south, but the French and their allies were moving west, aiming straight for Milan, the capital of Lombardy. The inevitable confrontation was looming. The two armies were on a collision course, and the flashpoint would be the town of Magenta, strategically located near a key bridge over the Ticino River. Leading the charge for the French was General Patrice de MacMahon, a hardened veteran of campaigns in Algeria. MacMahon was known for his courage and tactical skill. He commanded the 2nd Army Corps, one of the elite units of the French army. On the other side, Gyulay was struggling to get a clear picture of the battlefield. His scattered command structure meant that communication was slow and often confusing. He was playing defense, reacting to the French moves rather than dictating the flow of battle. On that fateful morning of June 4th, the French began their advance. The landscape around Magenta wasn't ideal for a 19th-century army. It was a web of canals, rice paddies, and mulberry groves, which broke up formations and made coordinated maneuvers incredibly difficult. This wasn't going to be a grand, sweeping cavalry charge. This was going to be a brutal, close-quarters slugfest. The fighting erupted with ferocious intensity. The French vanguard, pushing towards the bridge and the town, ran into stiff Austrian resistance. Cannons roared, filling the air with thick, acrid smoke. Muskets cracked, and the disciplined volleys of the Austrians took a heavy toll on the advancing French columns. The battle dissolved into a chaotic house-to-house struggle. Soldiers fought in the narrow streets of Magenta, in farmhouses and across vineyards. The initial French attacks stalled, and for a moment it seemed the Austrian line might hold. But MacMahon was not a man to give up. As the battle raged through the afternoon, he saw an opportunity. While the Austrians were focused on the frontal assault, MacMahon was executing a brilliant flanking maneuver. He marched his corps to the north, crossing the canals, and prepared to strike the Austrian right flank. It was a risky move that left his own forces exposed, but he was counting on speed and surprise. Around mid-afternoon, MacMahon launched his decisive attack. His troops slammed into the unsuspecting Austrian flank with the force of a tidal wave. Panic rippled through the Austrian ranks. Suddenly, they were fighting on two fronts. The units that had been holding strong now found themselves in danger of being cut off and surrounded. Gulai, miles away from the main action and receiving fragmented reports, lost control of the situation. Believing his army was on the verge of collapse, he made a fateful decision. He ordered a general retreat. The retreat quickly turned into a rout. The Austrians fell back in disarray, abandoning equipment, cannons, and wounded soldiers. By nightfall, the fighting died down. When the smoke finally cleared, the French tricolour flag was flying over the battered town of Magenta. The victory was complete, though it had come at a terrible cost. Over 4,000 men on both sides lay dead or dying on the field, with thousands more wounded. The fields and streets were a horrifying testament to the brutality of the battle. But the sacrifice was not in vain. The Battle of Magenta was a strategic and psychological earthquake. It shattered the myth of Austrian invincibility in Italy. Gulai's army was forced to abandon Milan and retreat from Lombardy altogether. Just 4 days later, Napoleon III and King Victor Emmanuel II of Sardinia-Piedmont rode into Milan in triumph, hailed as liberators by ecstatic crowds. The path to Italian unification was now wide open. The victory at Magenta was followed by another bloody Franco-Piedmontese victory at Solferino a few weeks later, which solidified their control over the region. The duchies of central Italy were inspired to overthrow their own rulers and vote to join the expanding kingdom of Sardinia-Piedmont. For his critical role in the victory, General MacMahon was showered with honors. On the battlefield itself, a grateful Napoleon III named him a Marshal of France and granted him the title Duke of Magenta. It was a title he would carry with pride for the rest of his life. And interestingly, this soldier's journey didn't end there. Years later, Patrice de MacMahon would go on to become the President of the French Republic. But the legacy of Magenta goes beyond politics and titles. The battle became a powerful symbol for the Risorgimento. It was the moment when the dream of a united Italy felt truly possible. It was a victory won not just by armies, but by the will of a people yearning to be free and stand together under a single flag. From the ashes of that brutal conflict rose the hope for a new nation. And here's a fascinating little detail that connects this 19th century battle to our lives today. You've probably heard of the color magenta, right? That vibrant, purplish-pink hue. Well, it was discovered by a French chemist in 1859, the very same year as the battle. To celebrate the victory, he named his new aniline dye magenta. Some stories even say the color was inspired by the blood-soaked uniforms of the French Zouave soldiers, although that might be more legend than fact. Either way, it's incredible to think that every time we see that color, we're looking at a subtle echo of this world-changing event. History doesn't just live in books. Sometimes, it's woven into the very colors of our world. The Battle of Magenta was more than just a military triumph. it was a birth cry. It was a messy, bloody, and heroic step on the long road to creating the Italy we know today. A reminder that sometimes the future is won on a single fateful day. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into history. Let me know in the comments what historical event you'd like to explore next. See you in the next one.